All right, so we're diving deep today, right into the world of U.S. mortgage delinquency.
Oh, yeah.
We've got this Wallet Hub report, and it's got some pretty interesting stuff about, like, where people are having trouble keeping up with their mortgage payments.
hmm
And I guess, like, what that tells us about, how different parts of the country are doing financially. Kind of like a financial health checkup, but for cities and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. It's like taking the pulse of different communities across the U.S., seeing who's thriving and who's struggling.
Right, exactly. And this report, it's got some pretty wild numbers in it.
Yeah, some pretty eye-opening stuff.
I mean, we're talking about a range from like 3% delinquency, which, that sounds pretty good,
Yeah, that's pretty healthy.
all the way up to a whopping 23%.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big jump.
That is a huge difference. That's like a red flag, right?
Yeah, definitely a cause for concern.
And the city that unfortunately has that 23% rate is Laredo, Texas.
Laredo.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's going on there? Why are so many people in Laredo having trouble with their mortgages?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say for sure without, diving even deeper into the specifics of Laredo's economy.
Yeah.
But one thing that jumps out from the report is that Laredo relies pretty heavily on trade and manufacturing.
Oh, okay.
And those sectors, those can be kind of, up and down, right? They can be pretty volatile. So if there's a downturn in those areas, it's going to have a ripple effect across the whole community.
Right. So if, like, people lose their jobs or their hours get cut back because of those industries struggling, then they might not have enough money to make their house payments.
Exactly. And then, it's not just about making ends meet in the short term. When
Yeah.
you start missing mortgage payments, that can really damage your credit score,
Oh, yeah.
which makes it even harder to get loans or access financial resources in the future.
It's like a downward spiral almost.
It can be, yeah. It can be a tough cycle to break out of.
So, okay, so we've talked about the bad news, the high delinquency rates.
Right.
What about the good news?
Okay, so on the other end of the spectrum, we've got Gilbert, Arizona, coming in with the lowest delinquency rate.
Gilbert. Interesting.
Yeah, followed by Portland, Oregon,
Oh, wow. Portland. Okay.
and San Diego, California.
Okay, so we've got Gilbert, Arizona. That makes sense, right?
hmm
They've got a pretty strong, diverse economy.
Yeah, they've got a lot going for them economically.
But Portland and San Diego,
Yeah,
I mean, those are pretty expensive places to live.
they are, yeah.
So I'm kind of surprised to see them doing so well when it comes to mortgage delinquency.
That's a good point. It's not always as straightforward as you might think. But, one thing that all three of these cities seem to have in common is, well, they've got pretty diverse economies. They're not overly reliant on just one or two industries. So they're a little more, I guess you could say they're a little more resilient to economic shocks. Like if one industry takes a hit, it's not going to bring the whole city down with it.
So like diversification is key, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Right, right. And, I think it's really interesting that, this report, it's not just about, pointing fingers at the places that are struggling.
Yeah,
It's also about, like, looking at the places that are doing well and trying to understand why.
for sure.
Like, what are they doing right?
Exactly. What can we learn from them?
Yeah, exactly. What are Gilbert, Portland, and San Diego doing in terms of, housing policy or economic development that other cities could maybe learn from?
Yeah, great question. Because there are definitely lessons to be learned here. I mean, these cities might have different approaches, but they're clearly doing something right to keep their delinquency rates low.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And speaking of, what can be done, this Wallet Hub report, it doesn't exactly paint a rosy picture for the future.
Right.
They're saying that with, inflation and other economic pressures, things could actually get worse.
Yeah, and that's a valid concern, especially in those areas that are already struggling with high delinquency rates.
Hmm.
It really emphasizes the need to be proactive. Like, what can we do now to help prevent things from getting even worse?
Right, right. So what can policymakers do?
Well, I think there are a lot of things they could consider.
Okay.
Maybe it's about providing more support for affordable housing or creating programs to help people who are facing temporary hardship.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's about, promoting financial literacy so people are better equipped to manage their money.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a one-size-fits-all solution, obviously. Different communities are going to have different needs. But recognizing that there's a problem, that's the first step to finding solutions.
Absolutely. It's like
Mhm.
we've gone beyond just looking at numbers on a page now,
Yeah.
we're starting to see the real human impact of these trends. It's kind of sobering, honestly.
It is. And, it also makes you think about all the factors that we haven't even touched on yet. Like, sure, the economy is a big one.
Yeah.
But what about things like natural disaster risk? A major hurricane or earthquake could totally devastate a community and lead to a spike in delinquencies.
Oh,
And then there's, local policies related to property taxes or insurance. All of these things can play a role. It's a really complex issue.
yeah, it's not just about the big economic picture. It's also about all these local nuances that can have a huge impact on whether people can keep their homes or not.
Exactly. And I think that's why these deep dives are so important, right? We're not just skimming the surface here. We're really trying to get a deeper understanding of all the different factors at play.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And hopefully, by understanding the issue better, we can start to find ways to make a positive difference.
Well said. Well, I think we've given everyone a lot to think about today.
I hope so.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into mortgage delinquency rates. Until next time.
See you next time.